Am I the asshole for stripping our group's supplies, taking the only route to safety, and leaving my girlfriend and 6 friends behind once I found out what they'd all been doing? This is a throwaway account, for obvious reasons. If you're one of the 7 people this is about, and you somehow found a working router, hi. Yeah, it's me. Keep reading. I left you the punchline too. I'm typing this on the cabin's solar setup at like 2 in the morning, because old habits. I'll get to why 2 in the morning matters. This is a long one. Sorry. I've had a lot of time to think and nobody left to say it to. I need to explain who I was to this group before I tell you what I did. Or you'll read the ending and call me a monster. Maybe I am one. That's literally why I'm asking. I'm 28. My dad, who died 2 years before any of this started, before the panic, just a heart thing, fast, was the kind of guy the rest of the family rolled their eyes at. Prepper, hunter, had a binder, had caches, plural, buried and stashed across 3 counties, with the GPS marks written in a code. Only I learned, because I was the kid who actually sat with him. Had a deer camp cabin 4 hours north that he'd quietly turned into a fortress over 15 years. Well, wood stove, root cellar, a spring, a sightline. When he died, I inherited all of it, and I'll be honest, I was a little embarrassed by it. The binder sat in a closet. I'm a normal person. I had a job and a friend group and a girlfriend, and I went to trivia on Thursdays. Then, the panic happened. You lived it. I don't have to describe the week the dead got up and the cities ate themselves, and the phones turned into nothing but that emergency tone. What I'll say is this. On day 3, while everyone I knew was screaming into dead phones, I opened a closet, took out a binder, and became the most important person any of them had ever met. Our group came together in those first weeks the way they did everywhere, proximity and panic. Me. My girlfriend, Sierra, 27. We'd been together about a year and a half. Drew, 29. Sierra's friend originally, the charming one, the guy who's fun, who tells the story at the party. Marcus and Priya, a couple, mid-30s, solid people I thought. Jordan, 24, the youngest, quiet, anxious, sweet kid. And Tasha, 31, sharp, the closest thing the group had to a second in command. And here is the load-bearing fact of this entire post. They were alive because of me. Not me too. Because of me. My dad's caches fed us through the first winter. My dad's maps got us around the horde corridors. I'm the one who knew how to render fat, how to set a snare, how to purify water without burning a tank of propane to do it, how to suture, how to read which buildings had already been picked and which hadn't. The truck, my dad's truck, the diesel that'll run on anything, that I keep alive with my own hands, is the only vehicle we have that works. The plan, the whole group's only plan, the light at the end of every miserable day, was this. In the fall, before the deep cold, I lead everyone north to my dad's cabin, the fortress, the place we actually survive long-term. I was the route. I was the key. I was the reason there was a future to look forward to at all. So you'd think I'd be treated, decently. Now, Sierra. I'm going to try to be fair because I know how a bitter ex sounds, but I also have receipts now, so let me just describe the woman. Sierra did not take a watch shift. Not one. In 14 months. The watch, sitting up, scanning the tree line and the road and the radio while everyone sleeps, is the worst job and the most important one. And we split it. Everyone split it. Except Sierra, who informed the group early on, and I quote, because it became a running line, that she didn't sign up to be a soldier. She signed up, apparently, to be kept. Sierra wanted the good supplies and considered it an act of love when I gave them to her, and an act of betrayal when I didn't. There was one working coil space heater we'd salvaged, that we ran off the solar for exactly 2 hours a night, rotated through the group on the coldest nights, kids and the sick first. Sierra commandeered it, just took it, kept it under her cot. And when Tasha pushed back, Sierra cried and said the cold gave her migraines and did everyone want her to suffer, and somehow that became her heater. Jordan, the 24-year-old with the bad lungs, did not get the heater. Sierra got the heater. For a year. She critiqued the food. I want you to sit with that. I would come back from a 6-hour forage in Deadlands, having stepped over actual corpses to pull dandelion root and snare a rabbit, render it into something hot and safe, and she would push it around the bowl and say she couldn't do gamey, and ask, in front of everyone, whether I'd even tried to find something better, like there was a grocery store I was withholding out of spite. One time, she scraped a full bowl into the fire because it smelled weird, and we were 2 days from resupply, and Jordan watched that bowl burn with a look I'll never forget. And whenever I pushed back, gently, I was so gentle for so long. The script was always the same. I'd changed. I used to be fun. I only cared about my dead dad's stupid lists. I was controlling. That last one's important. Hold on to it. Because it turns out it was being workshopped behind my back into something much uglier. I told myself it was the apocalypse. People are their worst selves when they're scared and cold. I told myself I loved her. I told myself a lot of things at 2 in the morning on watch. Which? Okay. Now I get to the 2 in the morning. The watch. I took the 2 to 4 slot almost every night. The dead middle. Nobody wants it. It wrecks your sleep worst. I took it because somebody competent should have eyes on the worst hours, and because, honestly, the quiet was the only time the group wasn't asking me for something. 2 hours a night, that were mine. Me and the static, scanning the radio channels for the broadcast everyone in the world was praying for. The one that says there's an organized safe zone, there's a wall, there's a rescue, come in. The walkie-talkies we scavenged have channels. We used channel 3 for group comms. Everyone knew that. What people apparently forgot, or never knew, is that on the dead 2 a.m. watch, I'd slowly thumb up and down the band out of pure boredom, listening for anything, anyone, the whole spectrum. Channel 7. About 5 weeks ago. 2 in the morning. Sierra's voice, low, warm. A voice I knew. A voice I hadn't heard pointed at me in months. And Drew's, answering her. And the content of it. I'm not going to transcribe it, partly because I have some dignity left, and partly because you can fill it in. They were somewhere out past the vehicles where they thought the distance and the hour covered them, talking on a channel they figured the controlling guy with his lists would never bother with, being together in the specific way that makes the floor drop out of your chest. I didn't key the mic. I didn't say a word. I want you to understand the thing that happened to me in that moment, because it's the engine of everything I did after. I did not feel rage. Not yet. What I felt, sitting in the dark with the rabbit stew of the woman who couldn't do gamey still under my fingernails, was a kind of horrible clarity. Like glasses I didn't know I'd been wearing crooked snapping straight. Because the second I heard it, 100 small things I'd filed under the apocalypse is hard reorganized themselves into a single clean shape. The way conversations stopped when I walked up. The way Drew always volunteered to go on the long 2-day forages. With me, eagerly, the loyal best friend. Except the runs where Sierra came instead. And Drew suddenly had a reason to stay. The way Priya wouldn't meet my eyes lately. The way Tasha had started being nice to me in this careful, managed way. Like you're nice to someone whose dog is sick and they don't know yet. I didn't sleep after my watch. I lay on my cot next to Sierra, who was asleep or pretending, and I made a decision that I've turned over every night since, and I still don't know the moral weight of. I wasn't going to confront anyone, not yet. I was going to find out exactly how deep it went, and how many of them knew before I said one single word. The receipts. It took 9 days. I'm the maintenance guy. I'm the one who services the solar, the truck, the gear, who goes through packs to inventory and repair. Nobody questions me handling everyone's stuff. It's literally my job, the job that keeps them alive. So I had access to everything and a reason to be in it. In the bottom of Drew's pack, wrapped in a dry bag inside a sock, was a small tin. And in the tin were notes, folded paper notes. Because we don't have reliable phones and you can't whisper everything. So they'd been passing paper, like middle schoolers, for, based on the dates some of them carried, at least 4 months. Months. Since before that long stretch where Sierra kept telling me I'd gone cold. I read all of it once in the truck cab with the doors locked, and then I sat very still for about an hour. I'm not going to reproduce their love notes. Here's what mattered. The parts that turned this from a breakup into the thing I did. 1. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a relationship. They had pet names. They had a plan. Their plan was to wait until after the cabin. Read that again. They were going to keep me sweet, keep me leading, keep me hauling the 7 of them to my dad's fortress through the winter. And then, once they were safe behind my dad's walls, eating my dad's stores, they'd figure out how to tell me. I was a moving truck. I was a Sherpa they were sleeping next to. 2. And this is the one that ended the group, not just the relationship. The notes reference the others. Casually. Quote, Marcus and Priya said, as long as we're not weird about it at meals, they don't care. Quote, Tasha thinks you should cool it until after the move. She's worried he'll bail and we lose the route. They knew. Marcus and Priya knew. Tasha strategized about it. Worried that if I found out I'd bail and we lose the route, which is the single most clarifying sentence I have ever read about my own life, because it confirms that to at least one person I trusted, I was not a person who was being betrayed. I was a logistics risk to be managed. Keep the donkey calm until the donkey gets us over the mountain. 3. The part that's almost funny. Sierra and Drew, in their little love notes, were vicious about the very friends covering for them. Sierra called Priya a doormat with a thyroid problem. Drew called Marcus deadweight who'd have been zombie chow in week 1 without me. Yes. He acknowledged in writing that I was carrying his coward best friend, in the middle of a note to my girlfriend. They mocked Tasha's voice. They had a whole cruel running bit about Jordan, the sick, anxious kid, being the group pet. So let me total it up. My girlfriend and my friend were in a months-long relationship conducted 6 feet from where I slept. 3 more of my friends knew and chose to manage me rather than tell me, specifically to keep my labor flowing. And the 2 at the center of it held everyone else, including their own protectors, in total contempt. The only 2 names not anywhere in those notes as knowing. Jordan, the kid, and I'll get to it. What I did. The part you're here for, I had every asset. That's what nobody had thought through, because they thought of me as the help. The route north was in my head, and in a binder only I could read. The truck only ran because I kept it running. The cache locations were coded. Without me, they were treasure maps with no key. My dad's cabin, the promised land, the thing they were all waiting to betray me after reaching, was deeded to me, 4 hours away. And the last 40 minutes of the route is unmarked logging roads that exist nowhere but in my memory and my father's dead hand. They were planning to use all of it and then discard me. So I decided to invert the entire thing. I told the group we were moving the timeline up. Winter was coming early, I said. True enough. I said we'd do one last big inventory and a planning meeting. Tomorrow night. Everybody. Because I wanted to go over the route together so everyone knows it in case something happens to me. You should have seen them light up. Finally, the donkeys sharing the map. Sierra was lovely to me that night, the loveliest she'd been in months, because the prize was in sight. Drew clapped me on the shoulder and called me the backbone of this family. Tasha said, I always knew you'd come through for us. I smiled and thanked them and went and took my 2 a.m. watch and got everything ready. The next night, I gathered all 7 of them around the fire for the big planning meeting. I had the binder. I had the truck loaded, quietly, over 2 days. The essentials, my dad's gear, the real food, the meds, the tools, the spare diesel, the parts, loaded and tarped. And they thought it was staged for the group move. I had the keys in my pocket. And I had the tin. And I want to be honest about my state of mind because it bears on the question. I was not hot. I'd been hot 9 days ago for about an hour. By that night, I was glass. I'd grieved the whole thing already, alone, on watch. What I felt was closer to housekeeping. I started by thanking them. Genuinely. I thanked Marcus and Priya for the months of cover. By name. I watched the blood leave Priya's face. I thanked Tasha for her strategic patience in keeping the route secure. I said it kindly. Then I took out the tin, and I read. I didn't read the love stuff. I'm not interested in their feelings, and I had a better target. I read the operational notes. I read, wait until after the cabin. I read, we lose the route. And then, this is the harsh part. This is the part I'm asking about. I read what Sierra and Drew had written about the people sitting around that fire. I read doormat with a thyroid problem with Priya 4 feet away. I read dead weight. Zombie chow without him. With Marcus, right there. The man who'd spent 4 months keeping their secret to protect them. I read the bit about Tasha's voice. To Tasha. I read the group pet. And I watched Jordan, the only one of them who'd never known a thing, the only clean person in that circle, realize that the funny older friends he'd looked up to had been laughing at the sick kid the whole time. The fire did the rest. I barely had to do anything. Priya turned on Sierra, Marcus turned on Drew, and then, when he understood Tasha had known and helped hide it, turned on Tasha. Tasha turned on Sierra for making me cover your selfishness, and now I'm the bad guy. Sierra, cornered, did the only move she had left and turned on me, stood up and screamed that this was exactly why, that I was controlling, that I'd been controlling the whole time, that this little performance proved it. And for 1 second, I saw it almost work. I saw a couple of faces flicker toward, well, he did do this on purpose, he did set this up. And that's when I stood up and told them the rest. I told them the truck was loaded with my father's supplies, and only mine. I told them the route north died in my head the moment I left, that the binder was coded, and the last roads weren't on any map. I told them the cabin was deeded to me, that there was no version of the future where they walked through my dead dad's door, that the safe place they'd been planning to betray me inside of was a place they were now never going to see. I told them their fair share, actual fair share, a clean 1/7 of the common stores, the stuff that wasn't mine, weighed out, no more no less, was stacked by the tree line, and that they could divide it however a group of people who'd just learned all this about each other could manage to divide anything. And then I told Sierra and Drew, specifically, that I was giving them what they wanted. They'd been planning a life together after the cabin. Well, no cabin. But here you go. You two are free. Congratulations. You don't have to wait anymore. You can be together right now, tonight, out here, with the winter coming and a third of a group that hates you and no route and no truck and no me. I hope it was worth the notes. I slept in the truck with the doors locked. At first light, I drove north alone. I have not seen any of them since. I have been at my father's cabin, behind my father's walls, eating my father's stores, alone, for going on 3 weeks, and it is the safest and the loneliest I have ever been in my life. So, am I the asshole? I detonated a survival group, in an apocalypse, on purpose. I read private cruelty out loud to maximize the damage. I left 7 people, including a couple who never personally wronged me, and a sick kid who never wronged me at all, without their leader and their route and their vehicle right before a hard winter. That's not nothing. People could die. People I shared a fire with for 14 months could die. This season, because of the way I left, even if not the fact of it. I just can't tell anymore whether I'm a man who got betrayed and walked away with what was his, or a man who weaponized the truth and dressed up abandonment as justice because it felt good to watch them turn on each other. Tell me. First edit. A wall of you are asking the same thing, so let me answer it once. No, I did not leave them defenseless to die, and I need you to hear the distinction even though it doesn't fully clear me. I left them their fair seventh of the common supply, their own packs, their own weapons, and a defensible spot they'd held for a month and knew well. What I took was mine and my dad's, plus the route and the truck, which were also functionally mine. They are 7 adults who know how to survive. I taught most of them myself. They are worse off without me. They are not corpses by default. The thing I'm actually asking about isn't, was it okay to leave? It's, was it okay to leave like that? Second edit. To the dozens of people writing some version of, the controlling thing was the tell. Yes. Thank you. I've been sick about that word for 2 years. Reading those notes, I finally understood it wasn't ever a description of me, it was a tool. Sierra needed a reason that the affair was somehow my fault, so she manufactured one and seeded it to the group over months, so that when it all came out, the ground would already be tilled for, well, he was controlling, so. I almost watched it work in real time at that fire. The most disturbing part of this whole thing isn't the cheating. It's discovering that a narrative about you can be built behind your back by someone who sleeps next to you, specifically to be deployed the day you find out the truth. Watch for that one, everybody. That one's real, and it doesn't take an apocalypse. Third edit. I keep getting asked who the 7th person was, the other name not in the notes, besides Jordan. Read the update. Update. They came. Not all of them. And I have to tell you the part that's wrecking me. 6 days ago, just past dawn, the perimeter wire I rigged at the bottom of the logging road tripped. I went up to the sightline with the rifle and my heart doing something awful. Because the only people on Earth who could possibly have followed that route are people who couldn't possibly have it. It was Jordan and Tasha. And before you say it, yes, Tasha. Who knew? Who strategized? Who kept the route secure? One of the names in the notes. I had the rifle up. I'm not proud of that, but I had it up, because the math said this was the betrayer who'd somehow tracked me to take the place. Here's what actually happened. And it's the reason I no longer know if I'm the asshole, or just an asshole, in a story full of them. Tasha didn't know the route. Nobody knew the route. What Tasha did know, because she's sharp, is that on a forage 2 months back, I'd offhandedly named the river the cabin sits above. One word. I never thought about it again. After the fire, after I drove off, the group split exactly the way I designed it to, into people screaming at each other in the dark. And in that chaos, Tasha, who I had read out, who I had exposed and humiliated and was completely entitled to hate, grabbed Jordan. Just Jordan. The pet. The sick kid with the bad lungs who got no heater for a year. Because Tasha, whatever else is true about her, did the math that the rest of that group didn't. That a 24-year-old with bad lungs and no protector was not going to survive a winter inside a circle of adults who just learned they all despised each other. She took the one genuinely innocent person, and she walked him north on one word and a river name. 4 hours, on foot, through deadlands, betting her life and his that she'd guessed the right valley. She found me by sheer refusal to stop, and when I came down the road with the rifle still half up, she didn't beg, and she didn't explain herself. She said, and this is word for word, I'll carry it. She said, I'm not here for me. I know what I did. I'm not asking you to forgive it. The kid's lungs are bad, and it's going to be 40 below up here, and you have a wood stove. Take Jordan. Leave me on the road if you want. I'll understand. I want to be the kind of person who can sit in clean righteousness. I built this whole revenge on being the wronged one, the clear-eyed one, the only honest person at that fire. And here was the person I'd most thoroughly destroyed, having done, in the actual moment of consequence, the single most decent thing anyone in that group did the entire 14 months. She carried the kid out. I let them both in. Obviously, I let them both in. I'm cold, but I'm not that. So here's where I've landed, and then I'll shut up. Tasha and I are not friends. We may never be. But we're alive in the same cabin. And she takes a watch without being asked, and she gives the kid her ration when she thinks I'm not looking. And I've stopped pretending that the woman who walked a dying kid 40 miles north is the same as the woman who wrote that I'd bail and we lose the route. People are more than the worst note in the tin. Even, it turns out, when I'm the one who read the note out loud to ruin them. And Jordan. Jordan's lungs are already better with heat and rest. Jordan never knew anything, never wrote anything, never owed me a thing. And Jordan is the one person in this whole story who got carried instead of carrying, for once in his life. And watching him sleep warm by my dad's stove is the only part of any of this that feels uncomplicatedly good. The other 5 I have no news of, and I have made an uneasy sort of peace with not seeking it. So, final answer to the question I came here asking. Was I the asshole for leaving? No. They planned to use me up and discard me. I left with what was mine before they could. That's not betrayal. That's an exit. Was I the asshole for the way I did it? For building the trap? For reading the cruelty out loud? For choosing the version that turned them on each other instead of the version where I just quietly drove off in the night? Yeah. Some. I told myself I was delivering justice, and maybe I was, but I also enjoyed the detonation. I engineered it for maximum carnage, and in doing so, I scorched 2 people who weren't in the notes, along with the 5 who were. And one of those 2, the kid, only got out alive because the person I scorched hardest decided to be better than I was being. My clean revenge needed Tasha to be all villain. She wasn't. And if she'd been the all villain, I'd written her as, Jordan would be dead in that valley right now. And the difference between those 2 outcomes is something I did not account for when I was being so satisfied with my own glass-cold justice. Here's the thing, 14 months and a buried father and 1 tin of notes taught me, and it's the only wisdom I've got, so I'll spend it. The people who wrong you are real people, with the full machinery of real people. And so the same indiscriminate truth bomb that takes out the ones who deserve it will also take out the doormat, and the pet, and the one who'll later carry a dying kid up a mountain to you. Justice that doesn't aim is just a grenade. I threw a grenade. It hit the right people. It also hit the wrong ones. Both of those are true. And I have to live in the same cabin as the proof. I'd do the leaving again tomorrow. The grenade? I'm honestly not sure. Ask me at 40 below. The verdict I'll accept, not the asshole for going. Everyone sucks here for the fire. And me, specifically, a little extra. Because I'm the only one who got to choose how much damage to do, and I chose all of it.